Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast.
Great to be here.
Today we're zeroing in on a question that's likely crossed many investors' minds. Is Cracker Barrel Old Country Store a good time to buy now?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, an iconic brand facing some interesting time.
Absolutely. We've gathered a comprehensive stack of recent sources from financial analyses, market reports, news coverage, even, social media discussions.
All the angles.
Exactly. All to help us unpack what's truly shaping the narrative for this brand. Before we get started, please remember to subscribe, like, and comment on this discussion. Your engagement really helps us bring you more explorations like this.
It does, and we appreciate it.
And if you'd like to support the show, you could also consider buying us a coffee. We've got a link for that. Also, if there's a specific company you'd like us to look into, definitely leave a comment below.
We do read those.
We do. So our mission today is to equip you with the full picture. It's financial health, market sentiment, even some recent cultural controversies.
Right, get you fully informed on the investment potential or lack thereof.
Okay, let's unpack this then. When we assess a company's health, we usually start with the fundamentals, right? How much money are they actually bringing in? What do the raw numbers tell us about Cracker Barrel Old Country Store's recent performance?
Well, what's really illuminating here are their Q3 fiscal 2025 results. Cracker Barrel recorded revenue of $821.1 million.
Oh.
Now, while that's technically an increase, it's very modest, only 0.5% year over year.
0.5%, not exactly setting the world on fire.
Not at all. And if you dig a bit deeper, comparable store restaurant sales were up 1.0%.
Okay, a little better.
But, and it's a big but, that gain was heavily reliant on a 4.9% menu price increase.
So prices went up quite a bit.
They did. And the flip side is quite telling. Comparable store retail sales actually declined by 3.8%.
Declined. Ouch. That retail side is a big part of their identity, isn't it?
It really is. So, yeah, this isn't just a slight dip. It flags some persistent weakness in that retail segment.
So a tiny revenue bump overall, but it really sounds like those price increases are doing almost all the heavy lifting.
Pretty much.
Kind of masking underlying softness, especially with retail struggling. Does relying so heavily on menu price increases, risk alienating their core customers in the long run? The ones maybe looking for value?
That's a critical observation, absolutely. That reliance does raise questions about, long-term customer loyalty and traffic.
Right. So what about profitability then? Did the price hikes help there?
Looking at profitability, GAAP earnings per diluted share were $1.56, with adjusted EPS at $1.58.
Okay, explain GAAP versus adjusted quickly.
Sure. GAAP is the standard accounting method. Adjusted EPS usually pulls out one-time items or unusual things to try and show ongoing operational performance.
Got it. And neither $1.56 nor 58 cents sounds particularly strong.
No, they're not. And the full fiscal 2025 EPS estimates, they hover around $2.61, with only really slight projected improvements to maybe $2.75 for 2026.
Slow growth projected, too.
Very slow. It really indicates profit margins are under significant pressure, and that growth remains quite weak. It just underscores that dependence on price hikes to offset the softness we see in retail.
So it's like they're pulling the main lever they have left for revenue growth, but it might not be sustainable.
That's the concern, yeah. It paints a picture of a company facing some significant headwinds.
Definitely. And beyond these immediate earnings numbers, how's their overall financial health looking? Are there any sort of hidden burdens or anchors weighing them down?
Well, that leads us to a critical point. Their long-term obligations. Cracker Barrel manages substantial operating lease liabilities.
Leases, meaning for their properties.
Exactly, for their restaurant and retail locations. The present value totaled around $711 million as of late January 2025.
$700 million, wow.
Big number. And while their cash flow from operations seems stable, this massive lease obligation creates notable financial leverage. It's basically a huge fixed commitment.
So even if sales dip, those lease payments are still due.
Precisely. It significantly impacts their financial flexibility. They're highly reliant on consistent sales just to cover these large, unavoidable costs. It makes them less nimble, eats into potential profits.
Yeah, those substantial lease obligations sound like a significant anchor, limiting their agility. How does that kind of fixed burden impact their competitive stance, especially against maybe newer, leaner players?
Well, stepping back, when we connect this to the broader picture, Cracker Barrel is clearly facing stagnant traffic and those persistent retail headwinds we talked about.
Right.
They did open one new Cracker Barrel store and 4 Maple Street Biscuit Company units last quarter.
Oh, yeah, Maple Street. That's their newer concept.
Right. So there is some expansion, but it's at a very slow pace.
Okay.
And their unique restaurant retail combo, while it offers brand differentiation, it also means they're constantly challenged on two fronts.
How so?
By traditional casual diners, think Denny's or IHOP, and by the faster-growing, often more agile, fast casual concepts like Panera or Chipotle.
Ah, fighting battles on two sides.
Exactly. And that dual challenge, compounded by their high fixed costs from those leases, just makes growth a much tougher uphill battle.
Okay. So with that financial backdrop, some real challenges there, what does the market itself think of Cracker Barrel? Is it priced like a bargain, maybe, or is the valuation reflecting these issues?
Good question. As of late August 2025, the valuation metrics give us some important clues. Its price-earnings ratio, the PE, is estimated around 18 to 20 times trailing earnings.
Which means people are paying $18 to $20 for every dollar of past earnings, roughly.
Exactly. Now, 1820x might seem modest.
Yeah, not super high in today's market for some sectors.
Right, but it's arguably higher than you'd expect given Cracker Barrel's low growth and that margin pressure we discussed.
So maybe a bit expensive for what you're getting.
Potentially. Our sources suggest this PE flags a classic value trap dilemma. Investors might be pricing in some kind of legacy premium that the company's current performance just doesn't justify.
Interesting. What about other metrics? Price sales.
The price-sales ratio, or PS, is near 0.6 to 0.7x. That's pretty typical for a mature, low-growth restaurant operator. You're paying about 60-70 cents for every dollar of annual sales.
Okay. And price book?
Price book, PB, is around 2x. Again, these metrics generally track the broader casual dining group.
So not way out of line with competitors.
Not wildly, but from a relative valuation perspective, the stock appears to trade at a slight premium compared to other stagnant, slow-growth restaurant chains.
So the key takeaway is it's not really meaningfully discounted for its operational risks or that retail weakness.
That seems to be the consensus, yes.
Yeah.
Potentially a bit pricey given the growth issues.
Okay. So the market might not be fully appreciating the challenges. Now, beyond the fundamentals and valuation, what about the stock's actual movement, the technicals? Are there clear signals for traders?
Looking at the technical analysis, the stock's recently been trading in a pretty broad range, oscillating, low to mid $60 up to the upper $70 per share.
So
Very choppy. Technical signals indicate ongoing volatility. The stock's been struggling just above its 50-day moving average, but staying below its 200-day average.
Can you break that down? 50-day versus 200-day?
Sure. The 50-day moving average is generally seen as a shorter-term trend indicator, while the 200-day is longer-term. Struggling above the short-term but below the long-term suggests, well, conflicting signals. A lack of real conviction from investors.
An indecision.
Exactly. And things like the RSI readings, that's the relative strength index, frequently show the stock in neutral to maybe mildly oversold territory.
Meaning it might have been sold off a bit too much recently, but not dramatically.
Right. And the MCD, another momentum indicator, isn't confirming any sustained breakout or breakdown either.
So no clear direction signal from the charts.
Basically, no. The stock seems to be drifting, caught in a kind of investor indecision. So for short-term trading, there's a distinct lack of clear momentum, making it a pretty challenging play right now.
Now, if navigating financial headwinds wasn't complex enough, Cracker Barrel has also, well, stumbled into a different kind of storm recently. This is where it gets really fascinating and maybe surprising for some investors. Beyond the pure financials, the brand has been in the headlines for a major rebrand, including a new logo. But this hasn't exactly been a smooth rollout, has it?
Not at all. I mean, the latest quarterly results already got mixed reactions, right, with the flat growth and margin pressure dominating the analyst calls.
Yeah.
But then the logo change, which is part of this larger reported $700 million rebrand initiative that really ignited a firestorm. Social media, news outlets, everywhere.
$700 million for a rebrand. That's significant.
It is. And they changed their logo for the first time in 48 years, moved away from the original barrel shape and word mark to something more streamlined.
And the reaction was swift and, frankly, pretty intense. A lot of critics labeling it as woke. What exactly was the backlash about, according to the sources? How was it framed?
Yeah, the backlash was definitely swift and very visible. It seemed largely driven by conservative figures online who were loudly criticizing the brand.
While others were ridiculing the backlash itself, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. We saw comments online like, why would they remove the cracker in the barrel? That post apparently got viewed over 16 million times.
Wow.
Yeah. And statements calling the new logo depressing. One Republican representative even posted on X, formerly Twitter, "No one asked for this woke rebrand. It's time to make Cracker Barrel great again."
Make Cracker Barrel great again. That is quite a statement about a logo change.
It is, and the economic reality here is that a public backlash like this, regardless of its origin or validity, can directly impact brand perception, customer loyalty, and, ultimately sales.
So it's not just internet noise. This kind of strong negative sentiment could actually hurt the business.
It certainly risks alienating loyal customers and potentially derailing their efforts to broaden appeal. Yeah.
So the rebranding isn't just about a new look. It's clearly touching on something much deeper culturally. How did the company respond to this outcry?
Well, Cracker Barrel responded pretty quickly to Newsweek. They put out a statement saying, "Our values haven't changed, and the heart and soul of Cracker Barrel haven't changed."
Trying to reassure the base.
Exactly. They emphasized that Uncle Herschel remains front and center as the faith of the Herschel Way, which guides their, quote, country hospitality.
Interesting. This whole situation really sounds like it's tapping into those broader culture wars, as one source put it. What's the underlying reason a logo change, something that seems almost superficial, could become such a flashpoint with potential business implications?
Yeah, that gets to a critical insight.
Hmm.
Why does this resonate so strongly? One source, a professor from Clark University's School of Business, observed that rebranding is usually driven by changes in consumer behavior or when a company dramatically changes its identity.
Right.
In Cracker Barrel's case, they seem pretty consistent with their products, right? The food, the store.
Mostly, yeah.
But the stated reason for the changes is the evolution of a younger audience who may not relate as much to the original brand.
Ah, so the goal is explicitly to attract new, younger clientele and modernize their image.
That's the stated goal. And this tension between tradition and modernization, especially for a brand with such a strong, nostalgic identity, often gets tangled up in these broader cultural debates.
And the online discussions, like on Reddit you mentioned, they really shed light on the different perspectives, including that often charged use of the term woke. What did those conversations reveal?
Oh, those discussions are quite fascinating. Lots of nuance. Many users pointed out that for some people, woke has just become a catch-all term for anything they don't like.
A sort of general complaint.
Kind of. Some see the rebrand as just, quote, capitalist BS, like an uninspired attempt to modernize a unique brand just for the sake of it.
Okay.
Others pointed out, though, that the company has actually been trying to appeal to a broader audience for years now. Well, adding a plant-based meat option to their menu, for instance. And, maybe more importantly, addressing past discrimination lawsuits from the 90s.
Oh, right. Related to firing gay employees and not serving black customers back then.
Exactly. So this isn't their first move towards broadening appeal, arguably. There was also some misinformation swirling around.
Like what?
Some users incorrectly claimed a private equity firm bought Cracker Barrel.
Which isn't true.
No, it's been a publicly traded company since 1981. This rebrand is part of a strategic plan to, quote, delight existing and new guests.
So it's really an effort by a brand whose traditional customer base is, frankly, aging out
Right.
to try and appeal to younger generations, like advertising all-you-can-drink mimosas for Sunday brunch, perhaps.
That's another example, yeah. But that kind of shift, for some loyal customers, fundamentally alters that no-frills, country cookin' vibe they appreciated.
Creating a really challenging balancing act. Preserve the heritage while pursuing new growth?
It's a classic brand dilemma, amplified by today's cultural climate.
Okay. So we've carefully reviewed the financials the markets take, these cultural headwinds from the rebrand. Looking forward now, what are the potential boosts or challenges, the catalysts and risks that could really impact Cracker Barrel's stock performance?
All right, let's start with potential catalysts, the potential upsides. In the short term, the next earnings report is always a key event. That's coming up in September 2025.
So watch that closely.
Definitely. Positive surprises, maybe better than expected traffic, or even an upgrade in management guidance could certainly prompt some stock volatility, maybe to the upside.
Okay. Anything else short term?
Well, those modest new store openings, especially the Maple Street biscuit units, could marginally affect quarterly results. It signals some forward momentum, at least.
And thinking longer term, What could truly drive sustained change and potentially turn the tide for investors?
Longer term, those ongoing efforts to diversify through the Maple Street expansion, if successful, could bear fruit. That, coupled with digital marketing initiatives and store remodeling, these things take time but could help over several years.
Makes sense. What about broader
Oh,
factors?
absolutely. Macroeconomic variables are crucial. Things like overall consumer confidence. Do people feel comfortable spending money eating out? And food input prices. Those influence everything from foot traffic to profit margins.
So if those align favorably, it could provide a tailwind.
It could, yes.
Now let's flip to the downside. What are the biggest risk factors investors should be really keenly aware of with Cracker Barrel?
Okay, let's connect the dots here. Looking at the bigger picture, the stock-specific risks really include that ongoing retail sales weakness we keep mentioning
Right, the declining part.
and the sensitivity of overall sales to those menu price increases. How much more can they raise prices before traffic really drops off?
Good question.
Then there's that high operating leverage we discussed because of the $711 million in lease liabilities. That's a significant structural concern, a fixed cost burden.
Doesn't go away easily.
No. Add to that the company's dependence on consumer discretionary spending, people needing extra money to eat out, and a pretty fragile traffic recovery.
Yeah.
You've got multiple points of vulnerability right there.
Okay. And industry-wide risks.
On a broader level, yeah, the whole casual dining sector remains inherently vulnerable to economic downturns. Also, rising labor costs are a perennial issue. And the big shifts towards off-premise dining, delivery, digital channels,
Which Cracker Barrel might be slower to adapt to?
as potentially. And any broader market volatility could disproportionately hit slow-growth, high-leverage restaurant stocks like Cracker Barrel. It just adds up to a higher risk play in the current environment.
Okay. So after exploring the financials, the market's take, the rebranding controversies, the future outlook, what's the final verdict from our sources on Cracker Barrel as an investment? Is it, a good time to buy now?
Well, our sources distill all of this into a pretty clear rating, 4 out of 10.
If 4 out of 10, that's
Don't
not
it?
glowing.
No, it's not. And it's not just an arbitrary number. It's a signal reflecting Cracker Barrel's current trajectory. That low revenue growth propped up by price hikes, the persistent retail headwinds, significant fixed costs.
Right.
It just makes it a difficult proposition for most investors right now, especially when you compare it to maybe more agile competitors in the space. And the valuation metrics, as we discussed, are seen as only modestly supportive, particularly when you factor in all those risks.
So definitely not a clear buy signal based on that rating and rationale. What about for investors with different time horizons, short-term versus long-term? Does that change the picture?
That really leads to the crucial consideration. What's your investment strategy? For short-term trading, it doesn't look favorable. We saw the lack of clear momentum in the technicals.
No compelling reason for a quick trade.
Pretty much. And
Yeah.
frankly, it doesn't look compelling as a long-term investment either, given the stagnating performance, those ongoing retail issues, and a valuation that doesn't seem to fully discount the operational risks.
So what's the recommendation then?
The general recommendation, especially for more conservative investors, is probably to wait. Wait for either clear and sustained signs of improved growth, or wait for a material pullback in the valuation that makes it a genuine bargain,
Oh.
or concrete evidence that a turnaround strategy is actually taking hold and delivering results.
Yeah.
Until then, it seems like patience might be the best approach here.
We've certainly covered a lot today about Cracker Barrel Old Country Store, from its modest financial growth and those significant lease obligations to the pretty heated online debate around its recent rebrand, and that critical need to appeal to a younger audience while still navigating all these market risks. It's a really complex picture, isn't it? A traditional brand trying hard to adapt in a rapidly changing consumer landscape.
It really is a fascinating case study.
Yeah. Which leads to maybe a final provocative thought for you, our listener. In an age where something like a logo change can ignite a social media firestorm, potentially impacting a company's stock price and brand loyalty, how much weight should investors give to public sentiment and these cultural discussions versus the hard financial data when evaluating a company like Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, is that brand narrative becoming just as crucial as the balance sheet itself? Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this exploration. We hope this analysis helps you navigate the investment landscape with a bit more confidence.
Hope it was helpful.
We'll be back soon with another exploration into the world of business and finance.